All right. A very good evening to everyone present here today. And
it is setting up. Wait a minute.
it is, I think it is live already.
Live, right? Yeah. Okay, fine. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yes. Okay. So good evening to everyone present here today. And today we are inaugurating GIA's book review. And this initiative, we are doing it on the eve of World Book Day. And we want to ensure we put consistent effort in keeping this active to help the civil service aspirants in their preparation. Okay, first of all, I welcome Olivanan sir, Vice President Babasi, and he's the Managing Director of Emerald Publishers. And sir, thank you, and it's a pleasure having you here. And I welcome fellow participants and our speaker today, the reviewer, Mr. Giridhar Narayan, to the session, and Ms. Shantamina, IRS. We're proud to say that she is a student of Ganesh IAS, and she is going to conclude or do the concluding summary today. Okay, I don't want to take much of a time today. We have scheduled this meeting just for an hour. So to introduce Mr. Giridhar Narayan, he is a professional trainer, certified NLP master practitioner, and he has done his design thinking course through Stanford Executive Education, and he is with Wipro right now. He is working in the learning and development team, and he has trained various corporates. I mean, from students to corporate leaders, he has trained people, and he's a very good trainer. I can personally vouch for him on that front. And today he is reviewing a couple of books. I'm sure all of you would have got the invite. One book is Grit, the other one is Range. So I don't want to take his content. So the objective, okay, I want to set the context very clearly before we start. A book can be reviewed in various dimensions: historical, psychological, social. And GIA's book review is all about reviewing a book in an exam-centric dimension. So any book has got an extract that a civil service aspirant can make use of in his preparation. And our book review initiative is to orient ourselves towards such, goal. And we want to ensure all our book reviews are done in the exam-centric mode. And today, let's just listen to Giridhar Narayanan to give us the review on those two books. And we have Ms. Shantamina IRS to orient us towards exams, or get the extract from what Mr. Giridhar Narayan says and take us towards our preparation. So over to you, Giri, and good to have you here, and over to you.
Thank you very much, Jagan. It's indeed a pleasure to be part of this group. You've been talking about it for a very long time. I know you've shared with me a lot of stories of how the vision of Mr. Ganesh and the entire organization for 20 years. It's not easy to run an organization for 20 years. And it's a great initiative, and you are preparing the bureaucratic, shall we say, the warriors of the Indian, the country, right? So it's great to be part of this initiative, and it's great to initiate this entire event. I'm being the first person. It's indeed a privilege to be part of this. And today we are going to be talking about two books, right? You generally, when there is a book review, there is generally one book that is reviewed in detail. Yeah. But today we thought we will do two books because they are related to each other, they're connected to each other, and there is a reason why we are doing this, right? Okay, so I would like to start by saying that this book is in fact about you, the IAS aspirant, or the best of the best, right? So IAS aspirants are found to be the best. They are competing against a large number. There is a lot of filtration at various levels. People who clear prelims don't clear mains. People who clear mains don't clear the interview. People who clear till the interview are those best of the best administrative officers that get to work with real power and with real, shall we say, uh, authority to make the difference in today's world, in this country. And can we say that you're all experts in a particular area, right? Administration, you've become an expert. You're not an expert now in administration, but once you clear your exam, you go to the training center and get trained by those veteran officers, and you become an expert administrator. So we're going to talk about experts, or expertise rather. So Sachin Tendulkar, for example, is an expert. The moment you say Sachin Tendulkar, everybody knows he's an expert in cricket. A.R. Rahman is an expert. Ilayaraja is an expert. If you say Shailendra Babu is again another expert, a policeman who's very popular, or Vijay Kumar for that matter, so many people. And internationally also there are so many experts that are there in the world. You name them, you know them. History has created so many experts, and they are people with skill set. They create outcomes, they create results which are normally not created by normal people. They are found to be a class apart from the normal people. They are the top 5% of the world. So how do we become the top 5? How do we become experts in our own field? Doesn't it kindle your curiosity to know how do they do it, right? And another question is there a scientific view? Is there a scientific study about how experts uh, become experts, become who they are? What is the reason? What are those elements of, I'm not talking about success here. I'm not talking about successful. There can be experts who are not popular. They're successful. I'm not talking about popularity here, right? They may be popular, they may not be popular, but they still are experts in their own right, right? So we are talking about expertise. There is in fact a lot of study that has happened across years of, about top 50 years, 50, 60 years of academia has tried to explain various theories through various forms, what is expertise and how to develop expertise. And today's book, the two books that we are going to review today, are going to be about expertise. They are in fact two diametrically opposite view of how somebody develops expertise or how somebody becomes an expert. Isn't it interesting, right? There are many such books. To name a few books, because this is a book review, I'm not going to give you a long list, but I thought I will name a few books which are in this particular space, right? Mindset is one of the books which talks about growth mindset. There's another book called Flow, which is another book on expertise, which talks about mindset of a expert. What happens inside the mind of a person when he is performing his skill? When athlete is running, when Usain Bolt is running an Olympic meet, what is running in his mind? What's going on? Right? So that is what the book Flow studies about. And there's another book which talks about peak. This is called Peak, which talks about practice, something called a deliberate practice. He says 20 or 10,000 hours of practice, or 10 years of practice. And there is research on how do you do that practice every day, day in and day out, right? Be it A.R. Rahman or Shankar Mahadevan or whoever you call, or even Chef Damu or Venkatesh Bhatt, or even a chef or anybody like that. How do they practice? How do they develop those finesse? How do they develop their niche in that area? And another book, something that we're going to talk about, is called Range, written by David Epstein. David Epstein is a journalist, and he has got a lot of experience in a lot of study, interviewing people, researching on the content, researching on the literature that is available, and putting it together as a book. David Epstein is the author of Range. And there is another book that we're going to talk about, which is called Grit. It is written by an academician. She's a professor, she's a researcher. She's called Angela Duckworth. Right? She is an American. She's of the Chinese origin. She has moved with a family couple of generations back to the US, and she in fact mentions all those things in her book. I'm mentioning it because there's a background to the view that she is proposing. Right? So we're going to talk about these two books today. We'll talk about Grit first, and then talk about Range, and then talk about the similarity in view. What do they find similar in these two books, and how do they differ in their view from each other, and what can we learn from those two views as a civil service aspirant, as a person, as an expert or an aspiring expert. Right? So what is grit? Grit is a combination of passion and perseverance. In fact, you can take up the grit scale. It is available on internet, and it is available in her book Grit. It is a very short questionnaire, about 20-25 questions, and in fact you take the question, you will understand your grit or you on a scale of from minimum to maximum. And grit is a combination of two qualities, passion and perseverance. We know what passion is: extreme interest, focus on something. And perseverance is not giving up, continually do something until you succeed. Right? Perseverance, that energy to continue something in the face of failure, in the face of mistakes. Right? That's perseverance. A combination of passion and perseverance is what we refer to as grit. The essence of the book, it starts with talking about talent. Is talent really important? How important is talent for somebody to succeed? Okay, let me clarify here the difference between talent and skill. Talent is something that is found natural in somebody. Skill is something that you develop over the years of practice. Right? So talent, she says, into effort, which means talent is minimal. With a lot of effort, you develop skill, and once you develop that skill, you continue to put in effort, and that is when you achieve. She says skill into effort becomes achievement. Of course, for achievement there are other factors, opportunity, and so many, the timing of your expertise, all that matters, a lot of factors. But if you say that all those factors are constant, it is skill, talent, and your effort. Right? And so how should we practice? In fact, she mentions that in the West Point, like we have Indian Military Academy, there is a military academy in the US, West Point. She's done a research there. And she says people who are very gritty, people who are passionate and perseverance, a lot of were found to be gritty from the beginning of their childhood. They become warriors, they get selected. It's like the military selection for the raw, or not the raw, the elite school, elite commando force, right? So many levels, there is a lot of rejection, and only if the best of the best get selected, right? Like your UPSC exam, right? With a lot of physical element into it. Right? So a lot of people with a lot of grit only get selected. That's her theory. And she says talent is not very important. You need to put an effort. But what she also says is you need to start very early in your life and have one particular thing as focus and continue to work at it until you succeed, with a lot of effort, with a lot of practice, with a lot of mentoring and coaching and so many things. This is in fact the view of how do you develop expertise. Now let us talk about the book uh, Range. I'm going to come back and forth to compare it. Says agrees with Angela Duckworth in a way that yes, practice is needed, effort is needed. We agree, but where does it differ? It's a very interesting story. There are two stories that are narrated, two examples in the book Range, where the author takes uh, Tiger Woods as an example. Tiger Woods is an example of a gritty person, somebody with a lot of grit. Okay, the book, hence the name, right? So we're going to compare it now. He started playing golf even before he realized that he is playing golf. About 3 years, 4 years old, his father, in fact, created a golf. What do you call it? I don't know. The stick, right? So short enough for him to practice. Created a small area in the garden for him to practice. And from then on, he's been doing only one thing in life. That is golf. Right? So focused, and which is why he's an expert, which is why he's world class. The moment you hear the word golf, people talk about Tiger Woods. Right? Is an example of the view of 10,000 hours of practice, being gritty, starting early. In fact, many athletes uh, and people in countries where Olympic medal is very important. Of course, India it's important, but it's not really important. But there are other things that are very important for us other than Olympics. But there are certain countries in the world which takes Olympics very important and athletics very important, very seriously, and they put their children, about 3-year-old, 5-year-old, in athletics practice, practicing and working on all those things, and they become, in fact, experts in their career. Another example that he takes up is of Roger Federer, the tennis player, expert, another expert. We all know him. We have all seen him play Wimbledon, a champion. In fact, he played about 6 to 7 sport before he chose to play tennis. That's the key. Right? He did not focus on tennis when he was 3-year-old. In fact, he was not serious about taking sport professionally. He loved sports. He was good at it. So he played football, he played squash, he was into swimming, he was into various other athletics, running, so many other sports. Wherever he went, he was okay, not bad, very good at it, very interested in it. All that is true. Passion, all that is there. But he sampled a lot of sports. That's the word, sampled. He tried out different sports. And when he was 17 or 18-year-old, that's when he took tennis very seriously. And about 24, 25, he became world champion. Okay. So this is where there is a world of difference, completely opposite view. He says, in fact, there are a lot of people in the world who have done late specialization. And that is why the name range, a range of skills. You do a range of skill things and develop a range of skills. And therefore, you become and later, very late in life, after trying out everything, after developing all these small skills, you stick to one thing, you choose one thing, and you continue to work at it. And you become an expert. In fact, grit, he says, can be very detrimental, because the moment you are gritty, it is very difficult for anybody to figure out your strength very early in your life. That is in fact true, right? You may be interested in cricket early. How many of you play cricket now? You were probably very interested in drawing or something like that when you were 3-year-old, 5-year-old. How many of you are artists? How many of you continue to draw or paint even today? Right? In fact, my own example, what I wanted to do as a career, I didn't know. When I was in 6th, 7th standard, I used to like civics, history and civics, and I said I want to be a lawyer because my dad has done BGL. He taught me all these laws and things like that. So I said I want to be a lawyer. In 10th standard, I liked the biology teacher. The way she the way she taught, right? And I became a fan of biology. Then did my computer science, BTech Information Technology. Studied biology in 11th and 12th. Joined IT in my engineering and became a soft skills trainer. I'm an example of range. There are in fact a lot of people who decide they want to be engineer when they are 8th standard, 6th standard, they go for their IIT JEE exam coaching and they become engineers and they become very good at whatever they are doing. So both the views exist, and both you can't win this battle with examples. You can find 100 examples for gritty people winning. You find another 100 people winning with a lot of range. Now, so what is that we learn from this entire exercise? Or what is the view? In fact, there is a research. I want to mention this research because very important. Another research on why Asians fare very well in academics in the US universities, Ivy League universities, Harvard, Stanford, Princeton. They find it they struggle, but they are able to manage. They don't drop out. But the moment they join, they don't give up. What is the reason behind this? You can say grittiness. Yeah. What is the reason? In fact, the reason is that they are exposed to so many different subjects in their school, in their country. Like India, we study so many subjects: physics, chemistry, geography, history, civics, economics, and so many, Hindi, Sanskrit, and 3 languages and 4 languages. Now there are, of course, now people are debating about 3 language and all that, but a lot of private schools already have 3 languages in their curriculum. I studied in a school where I had to study Tamil, Hindi, and Sanskrit. Bharati Vidyalaya. It's normal. This is not something special. Any private school, matriculation school, good schools, you find this, right? So because of we are able to taste, we are able to do good at things in spite of the fact that we like it or not, right? And in fact, an Indian parent, very obvious, we know it. If you are good in mathematics and bad in history, what will you say? What will your parents say? Study history. Right? Math, you are good, okay, but study history. But no, I don't like history. No, there's no question of liking or not liking. You study history and you get 80% in it. Otherwise, that's all. I don't. That's the kind of language they use. And because of that nature, they develop their grittiness. In fact, there's research to support the more range that you have in your early life, the more grittier you can become when you grow older. That is where these 2 theories come together. Yeah, right. So, yes. So, the more range that you have more tolerance, more perseverance, and the moment you choose a passion, you are able to persevere and work at it and become successful. And what is the problem? Let's talk about the problem with grit. Problem with grit is people who do only one thing cannot be very successful in other parts of life. It's not only about cricket. Life is not about cricket or football, or there are so many different things that are there in life. You need to learn a lot of things. Right? So they don't know anything about other things. They become too narrow very early. And if they don't succeed for some reason, they don't have a fallback option. They are not able to do anything else at all. Right? That's what happens, right? Somebody who has been playing cricket since 5-year-old, but still he is at state level or Ranji Trophy level, he is not able to play state ODI or first class cricket. What happens to him? He did not study well. He doesn't know language, English language or anything. He is not good at math. He is not good with business. All that he does is cricket, but he is not very successful for some reason. What will happen to? Okay, this is, you may say, I'm speaking in favor of range. Now, let me do the other way around. Somebody who is proponent of range says do everything possible, try everything in the world, do a lot of things, don't stick on to one thing, right? You end up mastering nothing, right? You will be a jack of all trades but master of none, right? That is when an element of mediocrity creeps in. You become a mediocre person, an average person in everything, but you are not an expert like Zakir Hussain or Sachin Tendulkar or Steve Jobs or those people. You're a mediocre person. So where do we stand? What is the solution to this? The solution to this is, yes, range is important. Life is so complex that you can't have one particular skill alone. You need to sample on a lot of skills, one, and that's when you figure out your natural strength or interest. You need to have a range. And after a point, very quickly, you need to decide. You need to have a narrow view and become gritty and start working on that one idea and continue with that idea for a very long time so that you become an expert at it. But when do you stop being a range person and when do you start being a gritty person? That's $1 million question. I leave it to you. It depends on the person, it depends on your situation, and it also depends on the career that you choose. For example, your career, UPSC, right, is more on the side of range, right? You need to do a lot of things. Even after becoming a civil servant, you may have to do a lot of things. You can't, even if you specialize, take up a particular trade, you do multiple things. It's not like playing golf. At least there are a range of things that you do. You need to learn language or negotiation, communication, administration, record keeping, documentation, so many things, strategy, thinking, planning, and all that. Handling the press, so many things, right? And business, for example, business, after a point, you start to specialize, but when you grow, you become a general manager. When you become a CEO or a CFO, you can't say I'll only look at finance, you can't say I'll only look at computer science or programming. You will have to do a lot of things. You will have to specialize in a lot of things. In life also, it is about range, right? So, or for example, music, sport, athletics, chess, golf, these things are on the side of grit, right? Gritty people or people who start very early become very successful in their careers. So it depends on what you want to do. It is also depends on your setting and your personal preference. The balance between the range of things that you do and when do you start becoming gritty and take up one idea and make that idea your life, right? That's what Vivekananda also said. Take one idea and make that idea your life, right? How do you do that and when do you start doing that? It's $1 billion question. And with that, I'm done with the discussion. So now I invite our proud student of Ganesh IAS.
Jagan, just a minute.
Yes, sir.
By the way, I take the opportunity to also welcome Ashok Babu. Ashok Babu is here in the group. Welcome, Ashok. Ashok, are you there? Yeah, he's here. He's now he's an IFS officer. He's now Consul General in Cape Town for India. So he's again a
Welcome, sir. Welcome, sir.
reader. Ashok, can you hear me? Yeah. I think some disconnect. You can carry on.
Yeah. Okay. So Giri, you are saying you'll hand it over to Ms. Shantamina Ayaras, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And before you hand it over, I want to hand it over to Meena ma'am with a question. So that was beautifully put, Giri. So Giri basically juxtaposed two books, Grit and Range. For people who missed the context, so we set the context in the beginning itself. We want to be exam centric, and we want to address the UPSC aspirants, civil services aspirants, and he basically put two an opposite perspective, so opposite views on expertise building and skill development. So Meena ma'am, my question to you is, before I hand it over to you, how do you think two ideas existing together? I don't know. He put two different books. He kind of put them together. He discussed, but as an aspirant, for the aspirants, how is it? How does it really matter when two of these sides exist and I can see it? Should I fall on one side or not? So there are many questions that are in our head. So what do you? I'm talking on behalf of the aspirants. So how do you think an aspirant should take to opposite views existing in around us, like Grit and Range? Yeah, and over to you. And yeah.
Before I begin, am I audible?
Meena, once again. Again, sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
I may also welcome Professor Uma Maheshwari here. She's again a very good reader, and Madam organizes book review as well. We have another group called Varungal Padipom, and we used to review. And Madam is reviewing a book on Saturday also. Madam is professor in your place, Jagan, in Krompet College only.
Okay.
Madam, welcome, ma'am.
Welcome, ma'am.
Yeah, Meena, you can proceed. Yeah.
Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible. Yes.
Okay. So the question that you have put across is pretty tricky and interesting too, in the sense that it is exactly these two diametrically opposite things that has to be balanced when we do, right from our preparation till the whole career that we are aspiring for. According to me, I'll start with the whole exam preparation. The way the whole syllabus has been designed is you are expected to read general studies, also along with a particular subject wherein the optional, wherein you'll have to read a specialized reading. So naturally, the idea of range struck in. So you will have to read elaborately wide range of subjects along with current affairs, which means there is no borders with which you are going to read. Okay, this is my prescribed book. If I read it, I'll do it. No, it is not like that. So you are expected to do this range thing when you prepare. However, this range that you start with creates a childlike curiosity in you, the inquisitiveness that it develops. You tend to read more than what is necessary. So you tend to elaborate on any particular thing beyond its necessity. So that is where I think grit comes into play. You will always keep yourself focused towards the exam, that what this exam requires. However you deal with range, the grit, that will set your focus towards the examination and what it needs. So it happens in a circular manner. It is a cycle that you start with range, you read widely, and you should know where to stop, where to put an end by focusing on the grit. That what do you really want out of it. As pointed out by Mr. Gridhar, he started with the word called expertise. Expertise is an elaborate term. Do we really need to be an expert in anything to clear this exam? Not really. As he has rightly put, this exam is more about the skills that you develop. to clear this exam. For example, the exam starts, the exam has 3 stages. It starts from prelims, mains, and interview. At the stage of prelims, you will have to just answer objective type questions. How you get the answer right is irrelevant. You will have to get the answer right. So this is stage 1. The next stage is main. The main stage expects you to write the exam, and whatever you are, the particular candidate is being assessed by your writing, just based on the words that you written in your paper. And after this filtering stage comes to your personality stage, where your personality is assessed in an half-an-hour interview. So when the candidate focuses on the exam, it is this grit that will help him understand what is really needed for prelims, what is really needed for main, and what is really needed for interview. Yes, to deal with prelims, you need to have range, a range of reading. You have to read current affairs, and based on that, you'll have to read 6 different subjects. But what exactly you'll have to focus on that, there grit comes into play. And then comes your main. You'll have to read general studies and also optional. But how am I going to put it across in a 3-hour examination in a paper, which gives me a stipulated time period, stipulated space to write whatever I have to write? So there again, grit comes into play. Though you read a lot, you should know what to write, what not to write, how not to write within that stipulated period of time. And then again comes your interview. Interview is a stage where your personality is assessed, which develops in the overall preparation stage. You start reading elaborately, you make detailed study, and then you'll have to present yourself at the stage of interview. So if you ask me, like, which side one should tilt or which one should do, according to me, one should be open enough with a mindset that you can adapt to any mode. That if you are expected to display your range, yes, I can do. Or if you are expected to display your grit, your focus towards a particular thing, yes, I am capable of doing that also. So according to me, what a candidate should develop is this mindset of adaptability, that in which situation, what is needed of me. If this situation requires me to be the range person, yes, I have to be. And what is the point? I should strike a stop point, a border, a period. Okay, fine. This is the end of it. From here on, I'll have to focus. And the same person should be capable of switching back to the same range thing. Again, so it is a cyclical thing. If you extrapolate the whole idea to the career aspect also, with respect to bureaucracy, so when one becomes an officer, that particular person is expected to be open-minded to learn anything new comes. For example, whatever new that we feel today may become obsolete tomorrow. That too, in this technological world, what we see is like things become new every day. So when you are going to deal with administrative issues or any specialized issues for that matter, you are expected to be open-minded to learn whatever comes your way. And at a particular point in time, if you want to specialize in that, you should also be open-minded to specialize in that. As he was rightly putting out, like, no, history is not my subject, I cannot do it. No, you cannot say that as an officer. Suppose you're posted in, say, Archaeological Survey of India, you should at least have the basic acumen to understand what you're expected to do as a head of that institution. Being posted there, if you say that, no, history is not my subject, I've never read that, I cannot do it, that's not going to work. Not just civil service for that matter, any domain today, you are expected to be dynamic enough to switch between this range and grit thing. And if one masters the capability to switch between these two, I think they can survive anywhere, right from preparing for this examination, clearing it, and being successful in their own career, be it in public service or private. I think this is my view.
Very, very well said. Very well said. Super. Okay. So let me open the forum to questions now. One second. Okay. So yeah. Now we saw two opposite views on expertise and skill development presented in the form of a book review, of 2 books, Grit and Range, and how it is relevant to an aspirant. It is beautifully done by Ms. Shantamina IRS. I want people to ask questions, open questions, either to Ms. Shantamina Ayaras or Giridhar Narayan, Mr. Giridhar Narayan. So please go ahead. Let's spend a couple of minutes on Q&A before we wind up. It can be on anything. You can ask as an aspirant, or it could be general. As an observer of our education system, grit and range, the two things put in front of us. So do you have any questions? So it's all crystal clear, is it? Okay. So to just quickly sum up the discussion, so like to an aspirant, it's a cyclical process. As ma'am said, you have to have a range first and then get into grit, and then inside range again grit. So that's what we take home from this review session. And hoping, Sir Ganesh, sir, do you have anything to add here? Shall we wind up? And looks like there are no questions. So you're muted. Unmute.
Yeah, we can wind up.
Okay. So thank you everyone for being a part of our review today. And Giridhar Narayan, thank you so much for being with us today and reviewing these books. And Shantamina ma'am, thank you for doing this exam orientation. And thank you all, Olivanan sir, Ashok Babu sir, and Uma ma'am. Thank you all for being here. Thank you. Hoping to meet you all again on one more review session. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the opportunity.
Thanks, Giridhar. Thanks, Jagan.